Dear Premies, respected Baiji, and all the Premies that have come from near and far, with the blessings of Guru Maharaj Ji, it's truly special for all of us to have these moments where we all can come together and share our experiences and thoughts. When we look at our own lives, and when people tell us to be spiritual, one very important aspect of being spiritual is sometimes we have to ask ourselves as to why do we want to be spiritual. Because the world is divided into cause and effect. Everything that we experience is either a reaction to something, is an effect to a cause, or there is an influence out of which we are reacting to a situation. But when we look at the spiritual world, the laws of the general world do not reflect in the spiritual world. When we live our lives in this materialistic world, there are a lot of guidelines that we follow because the society expects us to follow that. Many people will say that life is an exchange of a lot of things. You give something and you receive something. But in the spiritual world, the relationship of cause and effect becomes very different. You cannot be spiritual because of something. You can't be spiritual because it's the in thing. You can't do yoga just because you want to be fit, or you want to be slimmer, or just because the society has a trend of following something, so I must also follow something. So the perspective of why we want to be spiritual, or what spirituality means to us, has to be fundamentally very clear within ourselves before we begin this journey. So the importance of perspective has to be understood. Now many people will think, what am I talking about? How a simple thing as perspective, as a viewpoint, how can just a view of looking at things can change my life? Can it? Does it have that much of influence? So there's a small example I like to share with you. There was a person called Mr. Subramaniam who said a very wise quote. He said that change will not be given to you. You must bring about the change yourself. Now when we look and hear these words, they do sound words of great importance and wisdom. That change will not be given to you. You must get the change yourself. Now if you put certain perspective in place, you will realize in a moment how these important words of wisdom are actually not that important. Now what is the perspective that I'm going to put into place? I'm going to ask you, who is Mr. Subramaniam? And if I tell you who Mr. Subramaniam is, and then you will analyze what he's saying, the meaning of what he's saying is completely different. Now, if I tell you that Mr. Subramaniam is a bus driver, and the change he's talking about is the change to $1. So a bus driver is telling you that change will not be given to you. You must get the exact change yourself. So till this perspective was not in place that who Mr. Subramaniam is or in what context he's talking about, we think, oh, he's talking very miraculous things, very great things. He's talking about, the change in the world or the change in yourself. But Mr. Subramaniam is talking about the loose change that you need to pay for your bus fare. So when you put certain perspectives in place, something that seems very important or something that seems that you cannot do without those things or certain aspects of life. But if you put certain perspectives in place, you realize that those things are maybe not that important or that necessary in your life. In the same way, spirituality brings a lot of perspectives in place. We all are struggling in this world, we all are living. Someone very wise even said that, the journey of life is just a struggle. It's just an effort from one end to end, and to meet ends meet. And no matter how much you gain from life or whatever accomplishments you are, in the end, everyone will suffer. Everyone will be admitted into a hospital, and slowly, slowly we'll leave this world and go. So, in fact, if life is only suffering, then what is the point of living? If we are only meant to suffer, if we are only meant to go through different challenges and different situations, if life is only meant to be stressful, if life is filled with unhappiness and shortcomings, then why this creation? Why this world in which we live? So the fact is that life is a struggle. But the struggle is to accomplish something greater than what we believe that life offers us. Because right now, when we live in materialistic world, our thoughts, our desires have materialistic influences in them. The way we choose to live, the way we choose to express our feelings, there are a lot of influences of judgments, a lot of influences of what people will say, what people will think, that is actually governing our life in small aspects. I mean, most of the changes start from home. I wear something that I like a lot, but the moment I step out of my bathroom, the wife says, "Oh, this is not looking good, please change it." Now the poor man, the poor husband has no option but to change. Otherwise, for the next 12 hours, he has to keep on listening to little whispers in his ears. "This shirt is not looking good, I told you to change it. What will people think?" So the fact is that to save himself from that agony, what does the husband do? He'll wear the shirt that he doesn't like, but someone else is like. So the fact is that this is a small example, but the example shows that how extrovert our life has become. It is being governed, our choices are being governed by things that are probably not even in our control, but influences of the external world. And that is setting our path in life. Now, some way, if we are only doing things what other people want to do, where is my wish, my desire, my incentive of living? So the fact remains is that life has to be put into the correct perspective first before you start the spiritual journey. So the correct perspective is that you have to first understand the importance of life. Life itself is an experience. It is a moment to expand yourself. And life is ever changing. It's ever expanding. When we were children, our outlook to the world was very different. As you start growing up, you move into a different age, your perspective of life will change, your priorities will change, things that you value will change. And what do we call it? We call it maturing as an individual. Now, spirituality is also maturing as a human being. I'll give you a very small example. When we all were very young, there was one particular thing which was very dear to us. It could be a toy, it could be a book, something that we extremely valued. And our life was incomplete without it. So say it was a toy that I had as a child. Everything that I did, I needed that toy with me. If I wanted to sleep, the toy was supposed to be with me. If I wanted to eat, the toy must be in my hand so I can eat. I mean, the toy was everything in this world to me. And sometimes if the parents also wanted to punish me, the easiest way of punishing was threatening to take the toy away. That you won't be able to play with it, so automatically the child, succumbs and he's like, "Okay, I'll do whatever you want, but please don't take this thing away." So, there was a thing that we placed tremendous value in, tremendous importance in. Now if I ask you, where is that toy? And do you still value it in the same way? You're like, "Shraddha ji, are you joking? We are 55 years old. It's not our age to play with toys." And for sure, the toy is there somewhere. It must be in the attic, it must be in some box, or it must be given to someone else who needed it. We don't even remember. Now, see the shift of your own consciousness, shift of your own mind. At one point, the toy meant everything in the world. It was the source of your complete happiness and satisfaction in this world. And slowly, slowly, as times changed, as your mind expanded, as your experiences expanded, what happened? You shifted value. Now, probably in this day and age, a person could value not the toy but his house, not the toy car but his actual car, not a toy friend but an actual friend. So the shift of value happens, and we start saying that, okay, we are believing or we are valuing certain things that holds meaning to us in this day and age. So shifting of certain values is maturing. In the same way, in spirituality, first and foremost is we have to ask the fundamental question, what do we value in the spiritual world? What is the most valuable thing in the spiritual world? Because if you do not understand what is the most valuable aspect of you in your spiritual world, you cannot hold on to it. If you still believe that materialistic things are very important, then there will be no maturity into the spiritual world. Because still our lives and our influences are trapped by that materialistic influence. So our sages says that in spirituality also you have to mature as a human being. That the child in you at one point must die, and you must understand and value life in a different way. Now the most important, the most valuable thing, yesterday's satsang also I spoke about, is what gives everything meaning. Now in my life, what gives meaning is the ability to experience this world. If I'm alive, I have an identity. If I'm alive, I have a family. If I'm alive, I have a status. If I'm alive, then this world, this experience manifests. So the most important aspect of your life is the ability on which we are experiencing this world. That is why our sages say that the most important aspect of the individual is his Atma, is his spirit, is this vibration of breath coming in and out. It is a very simple thing, but mostly in life, the simplest things are ignored. The most important things are ignored. We go to certain art galleries and you see these paintings of these famous artists, or you go to a museum and you see these paintings, incredible paintings made by people hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And they are extremely valuable pieces of art. But if I would ask you that you are seeing a painting which is extremely valuable, for that painting to exist, what is the most important aspect of the painting? Why does it have value? So someone will say the artist has value, because without the artist, the painting cannot exist. Some people will say, oh, the artist has value, he has talent, but without a medium to show his talent, the artist itself is useless. I mean, if the artist is there, but he doesn't have a paintbrush, how he's going to show his talent? So someone might say that, oh, the artist is important, but so is the medium through which he paints, through which he expresses his talent. So the colors, the paint he uses, the medium he uses, the brush he uses is also very important. So there are different viewpoints, how people will analyze, see and value different situations in life. But if you see another angle as to what's the most valuable thing, it's actually a blank piece of canvas. Because even if you have the artist, you have the materials to paint with, but you do not have the blank canvas, what will the artist and the paint do? So the most important aspect is the most simplest and the hidden aspect of the value that you're giving that painting. But if I would come to you with a black piece of canvas and I'm say it's worth £1 million, you're going to think I'm a fool or I'm trying to fool you. But the fact remains that in life, in spirituality, that is what we have to understand. That what is the most valuable aspect of us. And that is your breath. Because if your breath is there, you have the sense of saying I. You have the consciousness of saying I. And within fundamentally that I, your entire world exists. All your definitions are bound by that I. My name, my possessions, my family, my country, my origins, my work, my business, my friends. It all stems from that I consciousness. But if that I consciousness is not there, then what is it? Your friends will exist, the world will exist, your business will exist, your home will exist, but you will not be there to experience that existence. So our sages said sometimes the most simplest aspect is forgotten. And in this spiritual world, we cannot progress. Why? Because we enter the spiritual world thinking that the materialistic laws that are governing, the give and take of the world, the duality of the world also exists in the spiritual world. That if I will do something, then something will happen. Then most of the time, people are chasing their spiritual desire because of something. Now that itself is a trap of the mind. Like I said in the beginning, that the perspective of why do we want to be spiritual has to be very clear. Is it because other people are spiritual, that's why I have to be spiritual? Is it because it's a new thing to be spiritual? It's in DNA, it's a bohemian way of living. So I can be like that and then people will think I'm, a cool person or in touch with the times. That's why I'm being spiritual. But in the materialistic world, there are reasons as to why we make certain struggles or make certain efforts. We eat because we will starve otherwise, we are hungry. And we know that this is a repetitive process. I'll eat in the morning, I'll feel hungry again. In the afternoon, I'll feel hungry again at night. And slowly, to sustain that, I must have a source of income. I'll work, I'll sustain my family. There are reasons. Like I said, they are cause and effect. But in the spiritual world, there are no cause and effect. To be in touch with your basic reality is not a desire. Desire manifests because of certain ambitions, reasons. But in the spiritual world, you cannot have desire because desire is a hindrance. Then there's another question that comes to mind. That wanting a car is also a desire. Wanting to know God is also a desire. But there is a difference in desire. There is a difference in what the intention of desire that changes it. That is what we call bhav. In the materialistic world, it is very difficult to know the bhav of the individual. A person will come to you and he's crying. But maybe he's crying crocodile tears because he wants something out of you. That is the trend of this world. We go to someone and we'll say, oh, I'm in pain or this and that, and the person will offer to help us. And we are like, yes, just sign a blank check and all my problems will go away. And many people help other people thinking they are in distress. Later on, you find out that the story was completely different. So the thing is that in the materialistic world, it becomes very difficult to know the hidden desire or the cause of why a person is acting like this. And that is why there is a lot of stress in today's, there's something happening to the speaker, the sound. So today, one of the main reasons of stress or a little chaos in our lives is also how we are moving in this world. We are thinking about certain things. We are wanting certain things. We are doing certain things. But there is no correlation. I want to be happy, but I also want to be part of this world, part of duality, where there will be suffering. I mean, everything that we experience in this world is bound by time, is bound by a moment. But the desire is what? We understand that everything will come and go. But the desire is that we want certain things to last forever, which can never happen. But the want is there. So reality is something else. We are wanting something else. To achieve that desire, we are doing something completely else. In the end, what we are getting is something that we didn't want in the first place. So since there is no correlation into our thought, into our action and into our desire and what we want to achieve, there is chaos. And that is why we find ourselves in a certain place where life is good. Everything is good around us. But somehow in that good life, we are suffering. We are not happy. We are not satisfied. We are still looking for something more out of life, more out of relationships, more out of this world. And we are struggling to find what are we looking for? What is that restlessness that is being caused again and again in my life? How do I solve that? How do I answer that? So our sages try to explain that the bhav in spiritual world has to be pure and innocent. They don't have to be hidden desires. Once, through the purity of your action, through the purity of your mind, you want to achieve something, just to be in the presence of that experience. That desire does not have cause and effect to it. So our sages says, first focus on the intention with which you perform an action. Now this is the most simplest and the easiest way of reforming yourself. Fight with yourself, not with the world. Fight with your shortcomings. Now we all know what our shortcomings is. And if you do not know what your shortcomings is, just honestly ask your better half, कि मुझ में क्या कमियां है जरा बता दो. There'll be a long list waiting. So if you are not aware of certain things in you, there's someone else who's aware of those things and can point them out. But to accept that judgment, also you have to be very humble to accept it. Because the moment the other person starts to be honest with you and your temper starts failing, then automatically the other person can easily change the story. So like someone said in this world, that there are two types of wives that are existent in this world. The first type of the wife is that always listens to you, never argues with you, always takes care of you. And the second type of the wife is the wife that we get in reality. So the fact remains is that in life, in the spiritual way, there are also two ways. Either you do it with total dedication. There are no half steps in spiritual world. Because half steps will not take you forward. Either you dedicate yourself or you don't. There is no wrong in that. No one has said that you have to be spiritual in life or you have to know God to live a life. No. There's so many people I know in India, maybe they are not spiritual, they don't go to temples, but genuinely they are very good human beings. Your individual growth is not bound by certain actions. It is bound by the purity that you manifest within yourself. And that purity will be challenged in the world again and again. Because this universe, in the most smallest and smallest of aspects, will test you again and again and again. And if you are failing in those tests, you will know how much you failed. Why? Because the guilt of not doing what you want is also with you. It's with you because you know I wanted to do this or I wanted to help the person, but because of some reason, I stood back. I didn't do what my heart told me to do. There could be any reasons for it. There could be reasons why, because someone else told me not to do it. So the thing is that in the spiritual world, you have to understand the intention of action. That is the perspective that must be clear. Bhav is something very pure. It does not have to have resonance of the duality of this world. Once we can slowly train our mind to do little acts of kindness without asking for something in return, without asking for acceptance in return, because that act becomes a simple act. You did it because you wanted to do it. There were no pros and cons. Once you do this, then the mind inside is automatically, because the mind is just a doorway to the soul. Mind is built of habits. Whatever you do again and again, whatever you think again and again, becomes easier to do it, the next time. That is why when people say, oh, his nature is as such that he shouts and talks. Why? Because he kept on doing it all his life. No one corrected him. No one stopped him. His habit becomes like that. And the person says, I don't want to shout, but it's become my second nature. But you were not born shouting. It's not that you were born and you looked at the doctor and you started shouting at the doctor, what are you doing? Or you looked at the mother and you started making demands. No. Slowly, you trained yourself to be this aggressive person and this loud person. And slowly, if you untrain that aspect of yourself, you can train yourself to be a very humble and a loving and a caring person also. This is what Nelson Mandela said. He said a very beautiful quote. He said that no one in this world is born to hate another individual. To hate another individual, these things are taught to a person. So if a person can be taught to hate, a person can be taught to love as well. So this is where spirituality comes in. The world is a place of innumerable variations and colors. I mean, we can see that reflecting in us. In a moment, I can be a very calm person. In the next moment, I can be a very irritated person. In one moment, I can be the most sober person. People will come me for advice because they think, oh, this person is so calm. In the next moment, the person will look at me saying, what happened to him? Why am I taking advice from this person? He himself has no direction in life. There's so many variations in us. Now imagine you multiply this variation to the amount of people living in. There are how many possible variations in this world? Possible experiences in this world. It's infinite. It's not, the human mind can't even fathom, the diversity in which life can, you can experience life or the life can show itself to you. But in this diversity, where is your being? You will be a bad person because the world is bad. You will be a negative person because the world is negative. And the world is filled with duality. But to understand your path, understand the reason of why you exist, it has to be done on very strong footholds. The foundation has to be very strong. That is why the first aspect of your spiritual journey starts from within you. It is not an external. For sure, there are external stimuluses. We go to a temple, there is bhajan happening, there's kirtan happening, there's an atmosphere that is very different from the rest of the world. Usually, what are we experiencing in the world? We are in a traffic jam, someone is honking, someone is shouting, someone is being the worst that they can. This is what we are experiencing. Now, if 10 people are shouting, it is very easy for me to also, get into that flow, be influenced by that moment of energy and, become that crazy driver that I dread, that I don't encounter in someone else. Because in India, there's a very great habit. I mean, I haven't seen that much here in any Western countries, but we love to blow the horn in India. And we love the horn so much that people have made musical horns, dedicated to songs and bhajans and aartis also in horns, So the person is like, oh, you didn't do your aarti today, I'm going to make you listen to the whole aarti behind you. So he honks and the whole aarti plays down. But the fact is that if you see psychologically, there's a very different thing. When you are driving in India, even in India, if I'm driving and someone's honking behind me, I would be like, who's this idiot? Doesn't have any road sense. Where will I go? I mean, immediately you judge the person to be a stupid person because he's honking. But the moment you get stuck in traffic and you have to go somewhere, you are honking more than that other person. In an instant, you become that other person that you are calling an idiot. But you don't call yourself idiot. I'm honking because it's justified in your head. Your mind will justify because there's an important meeting that you have to be in. And this idiot is blocking your way. Then the idiot becomes the other person who's not giving you way. And you are this wise man who if he doesn't reach his meeting on time, it will be the end of the world. The world will cease to exist. So this is how the mind plays tricks. Why? Because the mind's foundation is not strong. It is fickle. It moves. It shifts very easily. And when the mind shifts very easily, that is the restlessness that we face. There's longing to want more. That is why our sages says that mana moksha ka karan hai, mana bandhan ka karan hai. In your life, your mind is your liberator and the mind is the one that is entrapping you. Now the mind is us. But what is being said? That if the mind is focused and channelized, it becomes your liberator. Because the mind has tremendous power. The power of the mind is tremendous. In fact, our sages went ahead to say that the world is an illusion. The world is Maya. But there is a greater illusion than the illusion of the world, and they called it the Mahamaya, the greater illusion. And that they named the mind, that the mind is the greater illusion. When Yudhishthir Maharaj was asked a question, that what is the most astounding thing that you have seen in this world? So many people answered this Yaksh in very different ways. So the story goes that all the Pandavas were in hiding. And there was this deal that they had made with their cousins, that for a year we'll live in hiding, and if you find us, then we'll relinquish all things. So they were living in jungles, roaming around here, there with their mother. So at one place, they were very thirsty in the middle of the jungle, and they come across this water body. And the water looks really refreshing. So Bhim first goes, he's like, okay, I'll go and get some water for the family, do not worry. So when Bhim reaches there, there's a guardian, there's a celestial being guarding that pool of water, which is, we call it Yaksh, a celestial being. So the Yaksh says, Bhim, you can drink this water, but only after you satisfy my questions. Then you can satisfy your thirst. So the Bhim thinks, who is this Yaksh? What will he do to me? I am the most powerful man in this world. He was arrogant. He had pride in his abilities. So Bhim said, okay, I'll ask you a question, but I'm very thirsty, let me drink water first. So the moment he drank, he became unconscious. Then Arjun went. Arjun was also full of pride, that I'm the best archer in this world. Nakul, Sahdev met. Both of them were very proud of how they looked. They were very beautiful. So they said, oh, we are the most handsome people. How can anyone reject us? So everyone drank one by one. It was only when Yudhishthira Maharaj went and he saw that 4 of my brothers, who themselves are very great warriors, very knowledgeable beings, if they are lying unconscious, that means the force that I'm dealing with is much greater. I must not underestimate this voice, this force, this Yaksh. Because if he can put Bhim to sleep and Arjun to sleep, I'm not even capable. I don't have the strength of Bhim. I don't have, the knowledge of the bow and arrow like Arjun. So I have no chance of survival. So it's better to surrender first. So he surrenders. He says, okay, quench your thirst. What do you want to know? So there's a big, there are a lot of things that the Yaksh asks, But the final and the most important question he asked Yudhishthira Maharaj was, tell me, what is the most astounding thing in this world? And Yudhishthira Maharaj says that the most astounding and the amazing thing in this world is our mind, is the human mind. So Yaksh says, explain. So Yudhishthira Maharaj says, this mind sees in his own family how a life will come to an end. We take our own loved ones, we carry them to the cremation ground. According to our rituals, either we'll bury them, we'll burn them, or we'll leave them out, in the mountaintop for the birds or the scavengers to feed on them. But we are seeing that how one day even our life will end. But when we are in the cremation ground, suddenly what will happen? We will become pious. We will become renunciates. We will want to leave this world and go. We will question. We will ask all these spiritual questions. But what will happen? The moment this mind comes back to the world, comes back to the house, he forgets that he too has to one day go and make that journey. This is the most amazing thing. That how, while knowing everything, we are ignoring the most important aspect of our life, of this journey. So this is what Yudhishthira Maharaj, answers. And it is so true even today. If the mind is not in our control, then we are servants to the mind. We are slaves to the mind. The mind is running here, we are running behind the thing. Mind is running here, we are running behind the desire. So many desires we fulfill, but we are still not satisfied. But we still think that still fulfilling desires will lead to satisfaction. And it is a vicious cycle that the mind has created. This is the Mahamaya, the greater illusion of the mind. And it can be broken when the mind is focused to a point. And that point is this very moment of your existence. What is the restlessness that you have? What is the stress that you feel? What is the regret that you have? Anything that today is putting you down, if you notice or if you trace that thought, the thought is only what your mind is retaining. Either you are sad of something that you could have done, isn't it? I'm sad I could have gone to India, but I couldn't go. I'm sad I could have become a doctor, but I didn't become. I'm sad I could have become a pilot, I didn't become. So either the sadness in your life is the regrets of what you could have done, but what you couldn't have done is the past. Even if you have regrets, Or even if you multiply the regrets 1,000,000 times, even by doing that, your past will never change. It is a memory. How you retain that memory, or how you latch on to it, or what you gain out of that memory is your own creation. It is not what is said or what it is here right now. And then the other insecurity or the fear that you have is what will happen tomorrow. Tomorrow, will my job exist? Tomorrow, will my family exist? Tomorrow, will my securities exist? So anything that we project into the future is a cause of concern today. But tomorrow hasn't come. There is no guarantee that if I sleep today, I'll wake up tomorrow. But the mind is so arrogant that every night when I sleep, I put an alarm clock. When I'm putting the alarm clock, what is the notion in my mind? Ki kal to utna hi hai. Kal utna hi hai. That is the main notion I have in myself. But you never know whether you'll awake tomorrow or not. But then tomorrow, you made so many plans. People have 5-year plans. People have 10-year plans. People have plans for their retirement. But you do not know whether those plans will come to a completion or not. Whether you will exist tomorrow or not. So tomorrow, or what we think of tomorrow, is our imagination. What is past is only our memory. Memory and imagination have no reality. They only exist in the structure of your mind or the value you give them. But now if you shift the mind's focus on something that is not true to something that is true, what is true here and now? What are you experiencing here and now is your reality. Today you are sitting in this hall, in this school, this is your reality. Today we are in London listening to satsang, this is our reality. What we will do tomorrow is not reality. It is a figment of your imagination. But the mind gets so easily trapped in our memories and our imagination that what is happening? Moment to moment we are living. Moment to moment God or this creation or this divine understanding is giving us an opportunity to be a part of that understanding. But moment to moment, the present we are missing out on. Why? Because the mind is still thinking about the past or the future. This is the greatest trick of the mind. That is, mind is also known as the greatest trickster. But the tricks can come to an end when you have a technique through which you can focus the mind here and now and in the present. And that simple technique, our sages said, is yoga. Chit vritti nirdasya yoga. The removal of the fluctuation of mind, or the practice of the removal of the fluctuation of the mind, is yoga. Yoga means you being in connect with yourself, with your true self, which is the vibration of the breath going in and out. That is the defining moment of yourself. Because only after the breath is there, does the consciousness exist. Only after the consciousness is there, the I exists. So I is not independent. I is dependent on consciousness. Consciousness is dependent on the Atma. So unless you focus your mind on the Atma, you will never know your true self. Because if you are only focusing your mind on the I that you have created, the I that is moving around in this world, then you are only thinking about the materialistic thing. Because the I that is defining you is only defining you through your sensory organs. My happiness, my pleasure, my pain, my sorrow, my comings, my goings, my meeting someone, my being separated from someone. And within this duality is all the flux of emotions. You meet someone you like, you'll be very happy automatically. You meet someone you don't like, or this auntie who'll keep on pulling your cheeks every time she meets you. You'll dread, the moment, weddings happen and all, the child will come, is that auntie coming? And you're like, that auntie is coming. And the child is petrified. It's like worse than going to school or being punished. That auntie will come, she'll embarrass, she'll pull us her cheeks and she'll do whatever. But that we all have that auntie somewhere in the family. But the fact remains is that it is the mind that is playing these tricks. Because you have an expectation. If the expectations is met, we have the false sense of being happy. If the expectation is not met, it is the false sense of being sad. But what we do not realize is that all these things are temporary. So a wiser mind understands whatever I'm experiencing, this will pass. And when you understand that all things will pass, you stop valuing certain things. You stop valuing your pain and suffering. You stop valuing your happiness and your emotions. And then slowly, slowly you mature into the spiritual world. That is why when you meet certain spiritual people, sometimes we think that they are a little different. Why? Because, certain things doesn't move them like, they do. There was a very great spiritual saint called Nisargadatta Maharaj in Maharashtra. And one foreigner came and he asked him a lot of questions. I mean, he used to only have question and answer sessions. And a lot of people came, like doctors would come, engineers, probably world leaders from different places to come and meet him. And then the amazing thing was Nisargadatta Maharaj himself didn't graduate. He didn't go to school only. He just had a small pan shop, which is like a corner shop. It's a downsized version of 7-Eleven in India, the pan shop. So he just came to Bombay from his village with the simple desire, like everyone has, to make a better life for himself and his family. And one day he was sitting in his shop doing his trade, and a friend came and he said, "Oh, my Guru Maharaj is coming to meet me, and would you like to come with me and attend his program?" And he said, "Datta Maharaj is, why not? If your Guru Maharaj is coming, it'd be a great opportunity to meet him." So when they were doing darshan, the moment the Guru saw something in Nisargadatta Maharaj that no, he's an enlightened person, he just needs that push so that divinity can arise in him. His Guru told Nisargadatta Maharaj one thing. He said, "You do not know who you are. To find out who you are, give up on everything that you are not. In the end, what will remain? That you are." And Nisargadatta Maharaj said that these words just hit my consciousness so hard that everything that I did, these words would reminisce in me. So one day I was sitting at a shop. This person came, he took a lot of things. And he told me, he's like, "I don't have money right now, I'll give it to you tomorrow." Now, if this happens to us automatically as normal human beings, even we'll get a little angry. But since he's a customer, you can't be totally angry on him, So you accept it and you swallow that anger in a way. But you don't resolve it, you swallow it. So next time you're seeing that person, that anger surfaces again. He's like, "Oh, this guy owes me money, I don't know why he's not paying. He's buying other things, he's buying a car, but he's not repaying my loan." So this is what happens. And then he said that automatically when I started becoming angry, like on him, again the Guru Maharaj's words came. And what did Guru Maharaj said? That detach from what you are not. And I asked myself this question, that am I this anger? Or is it just the emotion that is coming in me? If I am not in this anger, then don't attach yourself to that anger. And then slowly, slowly, I resolved that anger inside of me. And he's like, this happened to me years and years in different situations. Sometimes it was anger, sometimes it was pride, sometimes it was jealousy. And slowly, 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 within years and years of constant practice, he's like, a day came where I was different. I felt different. Why? Because everything that is moving us is not moving that person. Even if it's hot, it doesn't matter. We will complain, "Oh, it's so hot, it's so hot, it's so hot." And it's so funny that everyone who I've met in London is complaining how hot is it. I mean, that is one thing a person living in England should never complain. I mean, there's like 10 days of sunshine that you have. You should not complain that it's hot. You should accept it. Because when it's cold or when it's December, what are you praying God for? The sunshine. So when God is giving to you and He's answering your wishes, you're complaining and you're saying, "Oh, why is it so hot?" That's how the mind works. Because the mind is frivolous. That is why spiritual foundation is built on a strong mind. If the mind is not strong, what will happen? You'll walk a path, you'll move somewhere, you'll go to one organization, you'll go somewhere else. In the end, you are just chasing your mind. The world is filled with everything that you want to experience, the good and the bad. But what you retain in yourself is up to you. So you have to detach from a lot of things, and that is refining yourself, that is recycling yourself. There are a lot of knots that we've tied in ourselves because we did not know. It's not anyone's fault. It's just that when we were growing, we were immature in so many ways. In that immaturity, in that not knowing, we made certain mistakes. We took certain paths, we lost our way. But the fact is that here and now, if today you are mature, today you want to know, then the ability to correct your path is also lying within you. No one else will tell you, oh, this is not the path, this is the path. You have to choose your path yourself. And that's what happens. Slowly, slowly, when the mind is focused, then all these little fluctuations of the mind do not govern us. And then we become calm. So this person asked, this is Datta Maharaj, there's so many wars happening here. And you are indifferent. You are not reacting to it. You are not saying whether they are good or they are bad. You should speak about it. You should condemn war. You should condemn this human violence. So Nisargadatta Maharaj said one thing. He said, when has man not been violent? I mean, we talk about, the World War I happened, World War II happened. People thought that after the World War II, no wars will happen. We made the United Nations to prevent the war. The 5 largest, like the Security Member Council of the United Nations, the 5 countries are the largest producers of arms in this world. So the people who are making all the guns are in the council of not fighting wars, of not using them. Isn't it like a very strange combination? I mean, I'm making guns, and then I'm in this council telling the world that the world should not fight. Then why am I making guns? What for? So the fact remains is that this is the world. Everyone is tricking each other because the mind is the trickster. As a nation, the nation also has a mind, as a collective mind. And if the individual mind is not pure, then the collective mind cannot be pure. And if the collective mind is not pure, then what happens? What is happening today in this world? All wars in this world are justified. Isn't it justified? America says, we are fighting in Afghanistan for the greater good. That is the justification. But you are killing innocent people. There is no justification on that. Homes are being destroyed. Children are being orphaned. There is no justification on that. But the justification comes, in war there are collateral damages. We cannot do anything about it. Stop fighting wars. There will be no collateral damage. There will be someone hating you because you bombed their house. But the fact remains is that in the world, it is very difficult to follow that purity of heart till the mind is not focused and strong. So it is very important for all of us to focus our minds in the right channels. And the most important channel of experience lies within your breath. Focus your mind on your breath. That is the basic yoga, that is basic pranayama, that is basic meditation. Anyone can teach you different forms of meditation, for sure. There are more than hundreds and thousands of different ashrams, different charities, different sanstha's working in India, all over the world. And forget about Sanatan Dharma. There are ancient cultures in this world. There are shaman cultures in this world that respect nature, that respect life in a different way, that understand, that teach us about the cosmic unity of the world. And it's not that only people in India knew the truth. People all over the world have experienced that truth in their different ways, through their different languages. But they experienced the truth. Why? Because their hearts were pure. So the manifestation happened in them. So the effort that we have to make is to have the purity of the spirit, the purity of action. If we can do that, then we can move forward. And the purity of action is what? Every morning you will get up and there'll be one voice in your head which will say, meditate for 5 minutes. But another voice will come, don't meditate for 5 minutes. Now this is the battle. There's a very beautiful story that there's a Indian chief, a Native American Indian chief. He's telling his granddaughter a story. And he says that in all our lives, there are these 2 wolves. One is a bad wolf, one is a good wolf. And in our lives, these bad and the good wolves are always fighting. Day and night, 24 hours, there's a fight going on. And it's happening in everyone's life. So the little granddaughter looks at the grandfather and he says, grandfather, but in the end, who wins? The good bad or the bad one? So the grandfather just looks at the daughter and says, the wolf that you feed will win. Now there's all aspects. As a human being, you have the potential to do infinite good in this world, or you have the potential to do infinite wrong. If your direction in the life is wrong, then you will misguide other people, you will cause distress in other people, you will transfer your chaos to other people's lives. But if your heart is pure, then you will bring calmness in other people's life. You will help resolve conflicts in other people's life because your life is conflict free. So there are many things that we have to sort of understand, but the perspective has to be right. Now, on an individual note, I also went through a small accident. I thought it was pretty small. Then the doctor says, oh, 1 month it will be okay. Then they drill 3 screws in my leg. Then the doctor says, oh, the bone is okay, but now the screws have to heal because, the screws are implanted in you. Then that took 2 months. Then after 2 months, the doctor is like, okay, now it's okay, but now the physio has to start. So another month to do that. So finally, after 3 months, which the doctor said in the beginning, it will take 1 month, you'll be back up on your feet. It's taken me 3 months. And I'm also back on my feet with the support of this leg. Now, there are 2 ways of looking at it. One, I can blame the world. I can blame my friend. His staircase didn't have a railing. I fell down. I can blame anyone for it. I can even blame the doctors for lying to me. But it's not going to help anyone. What have I achieved after doing that? Or the other thing is, you accept what has happened to you, you laugh at the face of what you're experiencing, and you move on. You don't hold the negativity of what you're experiencing just because I cannot walk, I cannot move around, I cannot be like the other person, so my life is different. No, it is not. Now the perspective that I look my life is that when I was young, like we all are young, I also wanted, like a magic wand. Like in Harry Potter series, everyone has a magic wand. So I realized that God finally accepted my wish. I have one of the biggest wands. And it's really magical. Everywhere you go, the people part ways automatically. It is magic for me. So when I look my life in that perspective, I actually have gained something which other people do not have. I get special access service in airports. They whiz you through, there are no lines. Everywhere you go, people are extremely nice to you because they are looking at you and they're saying, thank God it is not us. But it is good. I'm getting, much more than I would have normally received if I didn't have this magic wand. So you change your perspective, everything changes. There is no suffering. For sure, pain will be there, this will be there, but that is normal aspects of life. And for that also, there's a magical trump card that I realized that I had. So every time my leg would pain a little too much, I would call Aradhya ji, call the wife, have a 5-minute, no point discussion with the wife. And then I realized the pain in the leg is gone. But then later on I realized after the phone call is over, the pain has shifted from here to here. So there's a massive headache, but there's no pain in the leg. So they're all things. And if you want, there are no shortcuts to spirituality. But if you want a shortcut to spirituality, a lot of people are already married, but the ones that are not, if you want shortcuts to spirituality, get married. It's the easiest way to renounce the world. The moment you get married, automatically you start thinking about God. It'll happen. Maybe in few years, but it'll happen eventually. So, the thing is, change the perspective of life. Anything that you're experiencing, if negativity resides in you, you will see the world in a negative outlook. And you will only see negativity. And your life will be influenced by that negativity. Be positive. Hold on to the positivity. You are a children of light, not of darkness. Darkness itself has no attribute. It is only the absence of light that gives darkness its attribute. It is the absence of wisdom that gives ignorance an attribute. In the same way, if you are wise and if you are full of light, then there is no way that any negativity in the world can touch you. But first, we have to be firm, we have to be strong. So, I would like to thank all of you that despite this being such an important day and the ICC World Cups are on and India is, in the finals, it's really great that all of you took out the time of being here. And I'm really humbled by everyone's love. It's amazing to see the family grow and grow, but also to see the family united every time I come. So it's an incredible journey. We have to still take this journey, but to support each other, to be there for each other is also a very important aspect of the journey. Because, sometimes what happens when we experience certain things, we are all emotional beings, and especially, people from India, we love the drama. Unless there's no drama, there is no entertainment. So all our lives we are very dramatic people, very emotional people. people of excesses. If we laugh the loudest. If we cry, we make sure that at least the whole township knows there's something happening in my life which is wrong. It's all out there. But the fact remains is that sometimes what happens is that there's a great fight in our lives between the heart and the mind. Always. There's a flux. But sometimes to survive in this world, there has to be a balance. We all want to live with our heart. And it's absolutely very good to do. But this world is not living with its heart. So sometimes we are out of place. So there has to be a balance. But sometimes we see that, people are over-emotional. And when we get over-emotional, we do things that probably later on we might regret. But sometimes we can check. That is why I'm saying the support system is there. That is why the family has to be united. Why? Because we support each other. We see, okay, this one is getting too excited, let's calm him down. That is the importance of ashram. Because in the ashram, when we all coming through different challenges, different circumstances. Sometimes I cannot realize what is wrong in my life. But another person who I interact with, who I sit with, who I eat with, who I share my experiences with, who I live as an ashram brother or a sister, maybe he can see what my distress is. So unless we are united, unless we share our feelings, our emotions with each other, we can help each other. But if we do not, then what happens? Then even ashram becomes an act that we do. Like we do. You go to work, you say hi to your colleague, you work, and you say goodbye to your colleague, and you come back. You do not know whether the person is going to be a father, whether there's someone sick in his family, because you don't want to know. There's a barrier. Why? Because you say, oh, he's a professional friend. He's not a friend that I have to know everything about him. So you put these barriers. If you do the same thing in the ashram, oh, I meet him, he's Premiji, Jai Sachidanand, and I go away. Then it's the same relationship that I'm, having in life. There will be no change. But when we come to the ashram, if we open up a little more to understand another person, then that other person or helping that other person is also helping you. It is changing you also. And sometimes those changes are very important in our lives. To be able to touch someone, to be able to see someone smile, and to able to know that you have caused that change in that person. That is a very encouraging feeling. It makes us alive in different ways. It makes us happy and satisfied in different ways. But to do that, you have to open up this shell that the world has created. So balance your heart and the mind. Because in this world, sometimes the mind has to be stronger. But at home, sometimes the heart has to be stronger. But both are there with you. Both are your aspects. And how you train yourself is how people will portray you to be. So thank you all for coming. And hopefully next year, there'll be our newest member in the family, Shri will also be here. And I'm sure through the live telecast, you've seen, how naughty he's getting. He's gone on his mother, not me. But it'll be incredible because Aradhya ji, Mata Amrita ji, everyone will be traveling because next year he'll be a little bigger and his vaccinations will be complete. He wanted to come this time also with me, but it was difficult to make that decision, to be away from him also and to keep him in India. But something has to be done, and everything happens at the right time, I guess. So next year it'll be a bigger family coming, and you also will have the opportunity to experience him. And truly, the real, people told me, oh, marriage is very difficult when I was a bachelor, and about to get married, And then I realized marriage is nothing. When you have the baby, that's when life gets challenging, And that's when who you are truly comes out, the true tests. When you have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, change the diaper, that's when you know how good a person you are inside, And how good the other half is also. So, I get very difficult times, when I go back because I have this 15-day of holiday right now. There's no waking up at night. But the moment I come back, Aradhya ji is like, everything is your duty. So I have a lot of workload slowly, forming up. But it's good. I guess being a father is that you enjoy doing things that you would have never done in your life. But because you have become a father, you enjoy doing them. So that's a tremendous change. So I guess that change is very important. Be a positive change in your life. That is what the message of the Master is. That is the message of Guru Maharaj Ji, that you have the ability to change yourself for so much more. Do not restrict yourself. Do not let your insecurities or your fears or your mind restrict you in any way. You are a children of light. Let the light shine. Thank you. Blessings to all. Hari Om Tassan.